My apologies for my delay. Let's begin the Rules and Open Government Committee and Committee of the Whole for Wednesday, January 8th. We have a full house here, so there's a quorum. Everyone is present. We'll begin with a review of the final agenda for January 14th. And there is an ad, two ads there on consent calendar. We'll begin with the review on pages 4 and 5. Are there any changes to the agenda? Now, I see that one of the ceremonials is to be heard in the evening. Are we definitely having an evening meeting? I know we've got, but the hotel item, yeah, I guess that would be in the evening. Okay, all right, we will have an evening meeting.
Nice try.
Yeah, I'm just trying to invoke the Chappie rule. Pages 6 and 7.
We originally were scheduling an appeals hearing board to be heard in the evening.
Okay,
I left it off because I wasn't sure if maybe we just put it to be heard last, because it didn't look like the agenda, the day agenda was huge.
no, it's not a long agenda. We could certainly do it in the afternoon if you're
Okay.
amenable to it.
Yeah, so we'll put it down to be heard last.
All right, is that, okay. You think we'll have any problems with the folks who are, the applicants showing up?
Shouldn't be.
Okay, great. All right, pages 8 and 9. Pages 10 and 11. Pages 12 and 13. And page 14. And of course, the ad sheet. Mr. Beekman?
Hi, thank you. I wanted to talk about hopefully 3 items here, if you have a little patience. Item 3.3, city technology deployment. I'm guessing ideas of the expanded CIO, Chief Information Officer, are ideas from the, that will be talked about in the technology deployment reports. I'm guessing that this expanded role can offer an important creative ideas of how to talk about openness and accountability in San Jose, not just within San Jose city government bureaucracy. I hope the future of the San Jose Sunshine Ordinance that should have an important part. I guess to go back to my first part, I'm guessing the expanded role of the Chief Information Officer. I'm going to go on, and I need to continue here. I'm happy about the Chief Information Officer and his role. I hope we can expand it and talk about it more in creative ideas in the future. To talk about 6.1 is funding for airport runway improvements. Is any of this money and grant money going to be earmarked for some sort of neutral study? I thought the City Council and the Airport Commission had agreed upon to examine the future of downtown height limit questions. And finally, item 6.2, in looking at different options other than continuing fossil fuel use for vehicles, I'm very interested in these city government efforts with lowering building emissions as well. I hope everyday auto drivers of San Jose can have patience and have a good attitude, and how we are all learning there can be good sustainable choices in leaving the use of fossil fuels. In the balance of life and for all the facts of large oil companies and military industrial complex, there is simply there's different opinions that are available at this time that I hope we can all respect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there a motion?
Move approval of the January 14th agenda with item 3.4 being heard last, and with the ads from the ad sheet. There's two point X's.
There's a second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Okay, January 21st, there is no agenda, mercifully. Happy Martin Luther King Day, everyone. Public record on item E, Mr. Beekman. Mr. Mr. Beekman, we got a lot of room in the front here.
Speaking at the end after this one. Thank you. For public record, to speak to my letter about Vision Zero, please consider the importance of European, Latin American, and Canadian ideas of Vision Zero that are based upon environmental and community harmony and tries to focus on miles of pedestrian and bike lanes, tree-filled medians, and large four-day weekend neighborhood merchant vendor fairs and block parties. I understand for some in this country, surveillance tech itself is a way to define community sustainability and civil protections. But I hope it can be a good reminder that also in this country, day-to-day civic government and its good community practices should also take precedence over law enforcement technology and its surveillance. I feel in asking to end continual war and to help transition into a new era of peace and good practices at this time, it is working towards good, accountable policy guidelines and developing minimally used practices that is how to build an open, democratic, sustainable community future. I ask the people of San Jose to please not make war on these good beginning concepts that can work well with an also fledgling Vision Zero. I made a slight error in trying to report a few statistics in the public record about Vision Zero this week to try to make up if November 2019 NSC committee statistics are correct. I still feel we should have a total of about 48 traffic deaths in 2019. The Mercury News is reporting over 60 deaths in 2019. I hope the Mercury, the Metro, and others of the community really need to consider the city government of San Jose is working hard towards Vision Zero and law enforcement and tech demands in 2020. And as I try to state in my public records as well, I hope government and local media can learn some important lessons this time, how we can better talk about statistics if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beekman. On item E, is there a motion?
Motion to note and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, G1, consent calendar items, including apparently a gingerbread house decorating event that I didn't get invited to.
Motion to approve.
Sorry, Mayor, you'll get your invitation next year.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 2 is the council agenda order change administrative cleanup amendment. Dave, did you want to say anything about this, or?
Sure, just, I'll say that we have proposed reordering the agenda to accomplish a couple of things. You're all aware that certain departments end up kind of having to sit through a lot of the agenda, and so kind of moving that around so we can spread the pain out, but also some effort was put into this to kind of acknowledge what department heads are coming from off-site and kind of have more difficulty managing that time frame. So we've done some work on this and hope that the Rules Committee can support it.
Should note for the record that he did say it was pain sitting through council meetings, so.
It's my favorite day.
All right,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 3 is, relates to a memorandum I submitted, and I'd like to amend it slightly, because I think it was either Mackenzie or Michelle, remind me, hey, dummy, there's a donation of land that's not taxed. But, so why don't I suggest we amend letter A to say transferred to a tax-exempt 501c3. I guess what I'm really hoping to do is we've already started conversations with some foundations that had some questions and concerns. We may need some modification from the council. I understand that the council is allowed certainly to reduce the impact of the taxes as long as it goes in one direction, not the other. I appreciate the submission from the city manager's office suggesting this could be green lighted. I think this would be, if there are any fixes that are required, hopefully fairly simple ones. Lee, did you want to offer anything more?
No, I'm here for any questions. Again, just one point of clarification. We can bring back a suggested framework or any input that we get from the nonprofit community before the election, but the actual amending of an ordinance does need to take place after the election once the ordinance has been in place and certified.
Right. Okay, thanks. Comments, Councilor Camus? I'm sorry, Ed, did you want to jump in?
No, I'll
Okay.
respond
Councilor
after
Camus.
your comments.
Yeah, I think I was going to direct the comments at you too. So, my understanding, the way it's written on the ballot it doesn't exempt nonprofits?
Correct. Right now, it just says that it exempts anything that's already exempted under our current transfer. And so, and that would allow the city to continue to exempt other properties even after the election, because the city is allowed to exempt from its own taxes any entities. It just can't impose new taxes on people who were not part of the original ballot measure. So we could always exempt people from the taxes, which is what this would do after we come back and provide you with the analysis of who would be impacted by it. So my question was, what kind of analysis do you want now? I was also going to make the comment that the mayor already made, is that properties that are donated are not taxed anyway, so that part of it doesn't have to come back. So my assumption is, do you want now an analysis of something else?
Yes, so if I could just jump in. So I'm hoping that once we've clarified the fact that simple donations are not taxed, we would just find out what residual issues there might be from these foundations and bring that back to council. If there needs to be some kind of fix, that would align with city objectives. If there doesn't, then we move on.
Because the question of consideration or value is what's going to determine whether there's a tax. In many cases, as stated in the memo, if it's totally donated, which means there's no value, there's no exchange, then it's not transferred. There are some cases where it's donated, but somebody takes over a mortgage. That's a value, and so that part of it would be taxed. But we can come back to you with a memo that explains how that transfer of value would be, could work under your scenario.
What if a nonprofit were, excuse me, what if a nonprofit, what if a nonprofit were to buy the property from,
Right, so
In a sale.
the issue isn't the status of the buyer, it's the issue of the consideration in the transfer of the property.
yeah, let's say they bought it for $2 million.
Right, so that they would pay,
They have to pay.
correct, unless you say they don't have to pay the city transfer tax. Right.
So that's what we're exploring is, we'd like to be able to sit down with foundations to understand, is that an issue, is that a barrier? If so, then let's come back to council and talk about how we make that barrier go away.
So the way that the law is currently written, if a nonprofit were to purchase a piece of land, this would make it, the current Measure E would make it more expensive to purchase that
They
land.
would have to pay a transfer tax.
Okay.
Unless you exempt certain nonprofits, even if they pay consideration for the transfer.
Right. Okay.
We'll
Guys,
explain that in a memo.
thank you.
Yeah. More to come. Councilmember Renz.
And what is the process currently for that exemption?
So when they fill out my understanding, and again, I know a little about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot of the details. My understanding is that when they fill out a form, they have to indicate on the form when they're transferring property, the value of the transfer. Or if they believe that they're exempt, they have to fill out a form that indicates why they're exempt. And then the county will look at that to determine whether in fact it's correct. Sometimes they ask for supporting documents to confirm that either they fit the exemption or that in fact there was no consideration. So all that goes into play when the transfer is actually going to the county for the recording of the transfer.
How about when when the council decides if we can exempt?
Well, the council is going to send its final ordinance to the county. The county will have it there and determine whether or not the application indicates an exemption from the city transfer tax.
Right, but I heard you say earlier that at this point, we could exempt any company that we wanted to, whether it was a nonprofit or not.
No. Today, you can't do that from the transfer tax because it's not exempt. Right now, the only thing that's exempt is if a nonprofit gets it free, because that's already the law that you don't.
Currently as it's written,
Correct.
excuse me.
What I
Yes.
think you're looking at is if a nonprofit does pay for property, which today they would have to pay a transfer fee, whether you want to exempt the city's transfer fee from that transaction.
So the exemption would be on the county side. I guess you would bring back all that analysis. and
Right,
you
the
bring
analysis
back
would
the
come back to say,
process.
with regard to the city's transfer fee, the city would like to exempt nonprofits, even if they pay consideration for it from the city's transfer tax.
Got it.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I presume that the council's intention was to do no harm to nonprofits, and so that was the intention behind this memo. Other comments or questions? No. Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that moves forward. All right, H2, update to Neighborhood Services and Education Committee work plan.
Motion to approve.
Point of clarification from staff, the administration would like to delete the community plan to end homelessness from the February NSC agenda, because that'll be coming to council in full March, or to the full council in March.
Okay.
So I'll
Councilman Camus?
modify my motion to reflect that.
Okay. Councilman Camus?
So, I know one of the top topic here is food insecurity is gonna be on the work plan. Are we gonna get into distributing foods or something?
They already do that. Parks does it, and library
Well,
does it.
for seniors, but that was,
Library does
Yeah,
it.
so Councilmember, there are several food programs that different city departments currently are engaged in. That includes our, senior meal program, our summer lunch program that the libraries run, various programs that the housing department has partners involved in with, say, senior housing facilities or other housing facilities. So what the NSE committee has had some conversation, and then the NSE city service area departments, we all talked about it and said that we really should look at them comprehensively and give a report to the committee that would then, could be forwarded on to the council, that just gives a picture and enlightens the full council on what issues we are addressing around food insecurity with our residents, and what our current programs are. And it grew out of an annual report that goes to NSC on the summer lunch program at the libraries. And I believe the members of the committee asked a number of questions about other food programs. So we decided, rather than just continuing this annual look at the summer lunch program, we would do an expanded look at other food programs that city departments are involved in.
thank you very much for the explanation.
Okay, any other questions? On Vice Mayor Jones' motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 4 is Public Safety, Finance, and Strategic Support Committee work plan.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second, yeah, I have a.
Vice Mayor?
So on the work plan, for March 19th, for item number 4, firefighter safety systems in high-rise buildings, I would actually like to see an update on just our fire safety program overall. And we can include the high-rise buildings as a component of that. But I really would like to see an update on our fire safety personnel, an update on personnel safety and equipment and programs, and our fire safety officer and what they're doing to implement those programs.
That would be more, this report is in response to a specific direction that was council direction in the past to come back regarding fire safety in high-rise buildings, and it, I think, closes out a reference from past meetings, but, city manager?
Yeah, well, I'll try and help.
Okay.
So it's not a no, but it's a different thing. So this is, as Michelle was mentioning, this is the air systems issue and our requirements around that. And so we needed to loop back with the committee on that. I think what you're looking for is more of a holistic look at our firefighter safety program. So I think we can.
That is correct.
Yeah, I think it would be different than this, but I think we can add that into the work plan.
Okay, I'm okay if whether you combine it or incorporate it, or if it's totally separate, but I definitely would like to see an update on that.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Beekman?
Hi, to talk about both the PISFIS and I guess it was NSC, that was the NSC that was on approval today here, work plan approval. Yes, it was, cool, yes. So the November 4th, to try to quickly offer, the November 4th NSC meeting gave statistics about Vision Zero, and they were offering numbers around 38 deaths, traffic deaths. And the San Jose Mercury has been reporting numbers over 60. And there's a discrepancy there that statistically wise, I hope, you can even it out and tell me exactly what exactly is the right statistics. What do I believe? And it's that kind of thinking that I tried to mention before. That's sorry about that. And I hope we can work on it and work on, Vision Zero. I think Vision Zero has plans for 2020 that I'll leave it at that. That we'll hold respect. And it's a matter of how to talk to community and media. We need to all learn how to be on the same page more, I think, and that's not quite happening. So thank you.
Thank you. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Beekman, we're up to public forum.
Thank you. I wanted to finish up my words about the great job you're doing with alternative uses of energy or different forms of energy, fossil fuel use other than fossil fuel use. So to conclude what I was trying to say, in the balance of life and for all the facts of large oil companies and the military-industrial complex feel they like to have, there is some long-term, well-reasoned, sustainable ideas of peace and sustainability that should be more openly discussed and respected at this point, and not simply cast aside as good, decent, progressive, liberal thinking. So I wish you good luck and patience to all of us in how we're going to work through and understand what could be good energy practices in 2020. And to speak about open forum, with 50 seconds, I wanted to remark on City Council consent calendar item from December 17, 2019, 2.3, the approval of October and November PISFIS meetings. I hope there could be a continued commitment by Park Ranger Department to not use tasers, and what should be the continual improving of police use of force practices using de-escalation and more peaceful interactions. I hope you're also considering concepts like mental health workers can travel around with park rangers or be on call for park ranger issues. The approval of the November 2019 PISFIS meeting minutes, item D2, is about domestic violence and how it has its own set of mental health issues. I hope I can remind how Santa Clara County's important overall contribution to the study of women's issues for the Bay Area is so important at this time. I'm looking forward to what is possible with women's studies issues in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the meeting's adjourned.